Hi Gilbert, thanks so much for watching the Northwest Gilbert Revitalization presentation from the March 27th, 2024 public meeting. My name is Amanda Elliott and I serve as the town's redevelopment program manager. My information is listed here on the slide if you'd like to contact me directly. And there is more information available on the website landing page at gilbertaz.gov/NW-Gilbert. Across the United States, there are many examples of the rise and fall of great American cities. And as such, Gilbert has made a long-term commitment to ensuring that areas in Gilbert break the cycle of decline. There are many terms used for tools that break this cycle: redevelopment, revitalization, and reinvestment. But what does that actually mean? The easiest way to understand this effort is to liken it to home ownership. Homes need ongoing maintenance to ensure that they do not become in a state of disrepair. This Northwest Gilbert effort uses data and public feedback to determine how and where Gilbert should focus its reinvestment efforts in the most mature portion of the community. Another way to look at reinvestment is to consider home renovations. Over time, you may find that you want to update your kitchen or bathroom, and we can think of this in relation to Northwest in ideas like updating streetscapes, infrastructure improvements, or even new or enhanced park amenities. In 2014, business outreach and public feedback signaled that Northwest Gilbert was reaching maturity. At the time, council instructed staff to begin monitoring data in Northwest Gilbert. And so over the years, staff has continued to monitor data trends, to interface with the public, and to bring in industry experts to determine the optimal time for reinvestment and redevelopment effort. Based on the data and the outreach, the time is now. This area is vitally important to the community as it holds over 22% of the jobs in Gilbert, particularly jobs related to science, technology, engineering, and math occupations. Within two boundary options, the area also captures neighborhoods and adjacent neighborhood commercial. We know that this area has a significant number of homeowners who've owned the home since they were built. We want to ensure this area remains a vibrant place to live, work, and play, and that the investments you have made and we have made as a community continue to remain strong. Revitalization is an opportunity for the community to utilize a unified vision that through a redevelopment plan develops specific goals and tactics to stem decline in those mature areas like Northwest Gilbert. These tools and tactics can accomplish a number of things, including improving infrastructure, enhancing quality of life, ensuring that property values are retained or increased, encouraging reinvestment by both businesses and residents alike, and strategically attracting development. Like other redevelopment efforts, the town has undergone an extensive public outreach, but we live by the philosophy that when we think we've done enough to engage, we need to engage more. And so that's what we intend to do. One area you may want to check out is the website landing page. The legal requirements, terminologies, data, and all the technical jargon related to the revised statutes in Arizona can be really cumbersome to understand. And so staff has created a website landing page to answer a myriad of questions in the FAQ section. These questions have been answered not only on the website, but in various public settings such as council study sessions or retreats, public meetings, and as additional questions are asked, their answers are added to the FAQ section. One other important section on this page that may be helpful for you is the background section. That section has all recordings of the public meetings from the last 5 years, and you are welcome to watch those at any point. We are also asking the public to contribute pins of specific revitalization opportunities that they would like to report. This interactive map is available on the Northwest Gilbert landing page, and staff will be working on responding to those pins as we continue outreaching and engaging. Redevelopment is a tool or process that addresses environmental, economic, social, and physical conditions in a maturing area. And in the state of Arizona, the state provides a toolbox of tools that a municipality may utilize in a designated redevelopment area. These tools are meant to aid in the prevention of or elimination of signs of decline. The statute allows for access to the tools for 10 years, so long as the community has a community-driven plan for reinvestment in place. Right now, for the Northwest Gilbert initiative, we're still in the first step of defining the boundary, or in other words, defining where we'll focus our efforts. So we first ask, do we agree that this mature portion of the community needs a focus for reinvestment? If we do agree, then we determine where the focus will occur, and an adoption of a resolution by council is created to establish a redevelopment area within that boundary. After this adoption, then staff can work with and must work with the community to develop and prioritize goals, develop tactics, and then identify which tools the community would like to use to support this effort. It's helpful at times to look at what redevelopment does versus what it does not do. Redevelopment is one of the most effective ways to breathe new life into an area that has signs of social, physical, environmental, or economic conditions that lead to decline. You can see here that it does a number of things, like committing to a quality of life, providing more flexibility and tools, creating equitability for mature areas of the community that may not be receiving as much attention as newer areas. It stimulates private activity, decreases neglect, and engages property owners, and ultimately increases or retains property values. A redevelopment boundary, however, does not call out individual properties, commercial centers, industrial complexes, or neighborhoods for redevelopment. It does not show up on a title report. Rather, it provides a focused roadmap to improving the economic health and well-being of an area. One of the other questions I also receive related to this effort is in relation to zoning. This effort does not create or institute zoning changes because it aligns with the voter-approved general plan. Again, this effort is really focused on stemming deterioration before deterioration can create an economic drain on the community. We have an example of a redevelopment area already in Gilbert. The Downtown Heritage District, which is the original town site, acts as an entertainment area and the community living room. It is a designated redevelopment area, and based on its designation, we have seen a number of things, including increased sales tax revenues, which means that we can offset costs to citizens based on that increase in sales tax revenue generation. It has seen additionally increase in property values. The full cash per acre value of land in the Heritage District is going for significantly higher than a buffer area within a 5-minute drive time. It has reduced neglect in the area and has increased reinvestment. But I want to be very clear that what has been the focus in the Heritage District as an entertainment area, the community living room, and the community's downtown is not what the effort is for Northwest. Northwest Gilbert is its own unique area. Again, we talked about the important residential areas, the adjacent neighborhood commercial, and the businesses. And we really want to focus and celebrate what makes Northwest Gilbert unique and not mirror what has been done exactly in the Heritage District. So as part of the designation process, the town must provide data that signifies the need for redevelopment and access to the redevelopment tool. The state outlines 9 findings, of which the town may have a combination of. The state statute does not indicate that you have to have all of the findings present. If you remember, this tool is both for elimination and prevention of maturing signs of decline. So as we look at Northwest Gilbert revitalization, we have 3 boundary options that have been presented. You'll notice that the Heritage District is not included in these because it is its own redevelopment area. So first, we have the Northwest Employment Growth Area. This area is a large concentration of employment, and that really is the reason why the boundary is drawn the way that it's drawn. It was meant to show that contiguous area of employment. We then looked at a boundary for Northwest, what we're calling Northwest Connect, which takes that boundary out to Burke. And this begins to incorporate, again, some of the additional neighborhood commercial centers that may be aging, looks at opportunities to assist residential neighborhoods. And then certainly as we looked at the data, there's some indications of maturity going all the way out to Lindsay in regards to properties. And so this provides another boundary option. Again, let's just keep in mind that this effort, the first portion of it is determining where do we want to focus our efforts for reinvestment. One way we look at how an area is performing is by looking at its vacancy rates, and Gilbert's retail vacancy rate in Northwest is exceptional. It's faring in line or trending with the community at approximately a 3% vacancy rate, which is just absolutely wonderful. We also look at the industrial vacancy rate, and this area is actually faring better than the community. Gilbert as a whole is seeing about 5% vacancy in industrial, whereas Northwest is seeing approximately 1% vacancy in industrial. Again, this industrial property is really important to this portion of the community as it is a large area for jobs and concentration of jobs, particularly those STEM jobs. So we love seeing that these numbers are still really, really prosperous and hopeful. Office, and this is where we know that we have some focused efforts needed. Gilbert as a whole, we're faring about 15 to 20% office vacancy. This is largely because some of those industrial properties had been transitioned to office uses, and then post-COVID, we're seeing those vacancies sitting in this Northwest area. So the rest of the community is at about 11% vacancy rate in relation to office, and this area is at about 15 to 21. So we know that there's some opportunities to assist with those vacancies. Great news. This area, Northwest Gilbert, loves its parks. McQueen District Park and Activity Center is one of the top 5 visited Gilbert parks. We look at Gilbert parcels built by year. If you look at this map, those areas that pop in yellow and orange are areas that were built before 1990 or even before 1980. And 58.8 of all of Gilbert properties were built before 1990 fall within that Lindsay, that dotted yellow boundary option. We look at HOA and non-HOA neighborhoods. Again, just this data helps us understand needs. HOAs and non-HOA neighborhoods have varying needs, and 28% of all of Gilbert's non-HOA neighborhoods are captured again within that dotted Lindsay boundary. We look at vacant parcels. We know that this area again is built out. There are very few small parcels remaining, but what we really look at is how is this area faring over time? And the data that we are seeing actually showing that it's anticipated to have a declining population rate. This is very nominal, under 1% for both the growth area, the blue boundary, and the orangish red boundary, Northwest Connect. And while this doesn't give us a significant pause now, we do want to understand why the area would have a declining population rate, particularly as it's completely built out. What is leading people to leave this area? So we also look at 311 calls for service. Connect and Lindsay had a lot of calls for service. This is your code compliance type calls in relation to parking, trash, and streetlights. But interestingly, the Lindsay and Connect boundary also had a number of water checkups within their highest 311 calls. So this often happens when a homeowner's last utility bill showed up higher than expected. So they think they have a leak in their system, or maybe they even want some help with more efficiently watering their lawn. So they call the town through 311, and the town is able to come out and assist in determining if there's a leak and where that leak may be, and assist with helping create more efficiency in that watering. And all of this certainly makes sense in relation to the age of those homes. Again, when we looked at that boundary for Lindsay and Connect, we start to encapsulate more of those aging properties, from 1990 and 1980. We also looked at the Northwest employment area, that blue boundary, and it differed from Lindsay and Connect in that one of its top 5 calls for service was road hazard. So of course we want to dig into this and understand how we can prevent those situations from occurring. As we noted, that there were findings that we have to provide to the state. One of the findings includes a foreclosure history. So of all of the foreclosures that have happened in Gilbert, property foreclosures, 22% of them have happened within Lindsay, 18% in Northwest Connect, and 1% within the Northwest employment area. This just helps us, again, look at kind of a past history of these parcels, but we also want to look to the future. And we look at fiber option connection at home. Again, if this area is a critical area for employment, we know that employment, has also transitioned over time, and we're seeing more people working from home or having a flex type schedule. These areas are lagging slightly behind Gilbert. So Gilbert as a whole has 21.6% fiber option connection at home. Lindsay boundary is at 18, Northwest Connect 18.6, Northwest Connect at 18.4, and Northwest Employment at 17.8. And that gap between 21 and 18 may not seem significant, but we think it's pretty significant when we know most of those jobs are concentrated at Northwest Employment, which is 17. That's a big gap from the rest of the community who has fiber optic connection. We also look at population data and data trends. In particular, we wanted to share, the aging population 65 plus and households with disabilities, because we know that both of these demographics need additional or different type services. And as we look at these areas compared to Gilbert as a whole, the Lindsay boundary has 23% of all of Gilbert's population 65 plus encapsulated within it. Again, this just tells us that individuals 65 plus may need additional or different services sooner than the rest of the community. In regards to households with disabilities, we see that 25%, again, of all of Gilbert's population or households with disability are located within that Lindsay boundary. And this really kind of helps us understand, as we look at the top 5 calls for police service welfare check, does align with both the Connect and Lindsay boundary. We also look at the income profile or median household income, which are really great, right? 73 to 101. But what's very interesting when we look at this area, Northwest, compared to the rest of Gilbert, this area applies a higher percentage of its income to housing costs, over 30%. And so again, we then understand, what type of disposable income is there, and again, what type of services we may need to provide or help offset some of those costs. So where are we in the process? We have continued to engage with the public for the last couple of years and have been seeking feedback on where that boundary should be established. And so now we're moving towards the recommendation of where that boundary should happen, and we'll be going forth to council shortly. Where the community's feedback has been, 33% of the community to date has said we should focus in Northwest employment growth area, 48% has said the Connect boundary, and 19% has said the Lindsay boundary. So with all of the information that we've provided, the data, the feedback from the public, and certainly how this all aligns with current voter-approved general plans, staff will be meeting with the town council in a study session format. This means that this is an opportunity for staff and council only to dialogue, and for staff to receive feedback from council on this initiative to date and where they would like us to move forward with it. This will happen on Tuesday, April 16th at 5 p.m. Certainly we encourage the public to be in attendance to listen to this dialogue. And if there's anything you hear from the dialogue that you'd like to follow up on, again, my information was located on the very first slide of this presentation, and I encourage you to share your thoughts and feedback post-study session. There will also be an email released to the public prior to the study session and an email after the study session linking the video. So we encourage you again to engage and hear this conversation with council. So with that, I just want to say thank you, Gilbert, for watching this video. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about this effort or if there's any way that I could be of service. Thank you.